Let's go!
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Bingetown TV. My name is Kyle, joined by Luke and Kathleen. We're here to discuss Season 1, Episode 6, House of the Dragon, titled The Princess and the Queen. So in the behind the scenes, they use the term or the phrase that this is kind of like a second pilot episode.
Yep.
And I think that's actually beautiful because when you think about it, I did the math, I guess you could say, air quotes, between last episode and this episode. So we've moved like 10 years into the future. We've added 6 children. We have 4 new actors. We have a couple new faces on the small council. We have, I think, 3 or 4 new dragons. And we're on another continent. So a bit of a jump between one episode to another in the middle of the season. There's a ton of things they obviously needed to get done and kind of establish in this episode because of that jump. I think they did a pretty good job of it. I don't think it hit it didn't pack the same punch maybe as last episode, but I still thought it was still a good episode of television.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go next. I adored this episode. I was nervous and skeptical of the time jumps and the actor actresses change and things like that. I was just gonna miss our guys and girls.
Yeah.
And but I adored this change. And in that behind the scenes, they say like these 4 interact the most, so they're gonna give them the new actors and actresses for this new second pilot or whatever. And I adore the acting by these Emma and Olivia. Absolutely fucking crushed. They were both incredible, and it was a joy to watch. So I'm all in on them already. I liked that the 23-minute like building the episode part after this one was so good because they were each talking about, the weight of taking on this character that had already been acted by somebody else for 5 episodes, and then you have to just come in and say, okay, you have to like me now. Here I am.
Yeah.
And I liked them. I liked them all. So
Yeah,
how about you, Luke?
I was definitely nervous to see what the fandom reaction was going to be because this is probably going to be the toughest or the most like overreaction I would say based on just this huge time jump, right? We're getting all these new characters. People are already super attached to the old actors, but in terms of just like how good the episodes are, I think we're pretty much into the can't miss territory where until we get to the wrap up of the series, I don't think there's really anything I'm ever gonna say is bad. Like I think everything is so, the bar is set so high that like everything's good. Every single one of these episodes has been amazing. Everyone's gonna have random complaints here or there, but like in terms of just overall quality of show, man, like we're there. Like we're back to Game of Thrones, and I don't think it can mess up until we get to the very end, which of course is the original problem. But yeah, this was a great episode. The new actresses and actors are fantastic. And Kathleen, you said 4 actors that are going to be interacting the most. Are we talking about?
It was basically Laenor, Laena, Rhaenyra, and Alicent, but it was more like they had interacted with each other in different ways so much that to feel the 10-year time jump, they kind of had to jump the 10 years, right, Kai? That's what, or switch the actors and actresses.
Yeah.
That's what they said, right?
I mean, their relationships are so different than they were.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
okay, I was just curious.
It also, I guess, yeah, it's like and sorry to speak over you, but I guess it is a subtle, like not a cinematography way, but just a way to also show that things have changed so much.
Mm-hmm.
Like the people themselves have literally changed.
Yeah. Emma Darcy in the extras, they said that they don't even recognize the younger versions of themselves in real life. So it's cool that in this show, it's like they wouldn't even, Rhaenyra would be a completely different person than she was 10 years ago. And I actually really felt that. I can't wait to get into some of the choices that Emma had made. And I want die for those 10 years on tape. Die.
Okay. So before we can get into King's Landing, so we do get, like I briefly mentioned, we're on 2 different continents in this episode. So if you're a longtime Bingetown listener, you know that at times when things like this happen in episodes, we like to bucket them together so that we're not kind of like completely jumping back and forth and it's a little bit confusing on the order of when we're talking about things. So we're going to actually talk about everything that happens with Daemon and Laena on Pentos. And then once we're done with that, we will then jump to King's Landing and cover all of the the mess that is the Red Keep in King's Landing. So
And
we'll have to
just before
warm
we
up a
even
little
jump
bit.
into that the first scene where they're doing the dragon ride, what did you guys think about Daemon in general? Because I felt like he's changed a lot.
Oh my
And
God,
I
yeah.
don't know if that was because of the lack of the screen time and dialogue he gets this episode, but to me, he seemed so reined in compared to what we saw before episode 6.
It's his fourth different haircut, so that changes a man.
Yo, we're back though.
I'm
I
no,
love it.
I'm glad we're back with the long hair.
We're back.
Yeah, but I feel like he's a little depressed. Honestly, I think
for sure.
like Laena says to him, like, you're diving into these books. You say you don't care about these like old dragon riders, but you're just like pouring over these books and hiding yourselves in them. The one daughter is like, Dad doesn't even talk to me, which I can only assume is because maybe her egg didn't hatch. You see him talking to the other daughter. Obviously, he's playing favorites. He's a fucking bitch.
Yeah, I mean, he's literally teaching her like High Valyrian and everything. So it's obviously, yes, he has a favorite in the team. I think part of it too, Luke, is he's a dad. I mean, he doesn't seem, maybe he's not the best dad, but he is now a father. So I think that every time I fucking watch Matt Smith be Daemon, I'm just blown away. He just is Daemon. Even when Daemon changes episode to episode, he's just so Daemon. It's so good.
Yeah.
Also, I flipped open the Fire and Blood book today just to whatever. And the artwork, you can point out which one's Daemon. You're like, oh, that's Daemon. It looks
That's funny.
fucking like Matt Smith. I mean, I hope it's actually him, but
what are you like on the
Bottom
inside
right.
of the book?
yeah, inside of the book, bottom right, first like page.
Oh no, yeah, Daemon isn't even in this.
Oh, doesn't that look like Daemon though? Bottom
That
right.
looks like Matt Smith though. You're right.
Do you know who it is? Is it like
I know who that
Aegon?
is. Yeah, I know who that is.
But you can't tell me.
That's why I'm literally looking at it right now. But no, it's not worth it to tell you.
Okay.
Come on,
Yeah,
you
so
were like, I'm
just
gonna try
saying,
to catch up before next season. I was like, don't do that, you little bitch.
I know, right?
It's the one thing I'm getting a little excited about is because of this huge change in Daemon and his personality. And again, it could be because of his kids and his legacy and stuff. I'm hoping he's not going to go like full villain like we originally were saying in the first couple episodes. And it might not need to because we already have Lars Strong being the guy. He's going to be like a huge enemy. So I'm hoping
So
that
good.
somehow Daemon can be on the pure good side. That'd be really fun and unexpected.
Okay, so I guess we can kind of break this into two parts almost, maybe 2 to 3. Essentially, the first half of these scenes are Daemon and Laena, we now see are married. I guess they threw us a little bit of a bone in episode 5 of they have the conversation at the ball, or at the wedding rather. There's a lot more obviously that goes into it. They're not going to show everything. So they're now married. They have twins. They have twin daughters.
Oh, twins.
They are twins. Yes, it's
Oh, okay.
Bela and Rhaenyra.
Okay.
Bela is the daughter that has a dragon who is hatched.
Yeah.
And then Rhaenyra is the one who obviously has not. The big, I guess, kind of conflict right now going on between them, or conflict in these sets of scenes, is that this Prince of Pentos, this Prince Regio Horatis, is offering them the ability to just live in Pentos forever, and just as long as they ally with them against the Triarchy, who is rearing their heads again because of our old friends, the Martells. And Daemon seems to be into it because, like we've said, he's changed so much. He's kind of given up on the whole idea of the throne and King's Landing. He's over it. While Laena is much younger than he is at this point, she still kind of has that fire in her belly, and she's like, this is not us. We're Valyrians. Like, we got to go back to King's Landing and to Driftmark and kind of live the life we're supposed to live.
This just made me think Daemon will never be happy. I don't care which wife he has, and I'm sure he will find another wife and do another big move in getting married and something political, but he will never be happy. He doesn't care. Like, I forget the line he says later, but he's like, how could I be with you, like breathing down my neck or something like that, whatever it is. But
yeah.
Guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting hearing him say, like when she says they're using us, and he's like, it's nice, isn't it? Like, it's a simple transaction. Like, we have dragons, they need dragons. It's easy. Like, it's just, he's settling so much, and she does end up saying that to them, like, this is not the man I married. Like, you're so much more than this. What the fuck is going on?
I can't really figure out his goals at all because, like you're saying, he doesn't seem like he has ambition for the throne anymore. I don't even know if he outwardly did besides being the heir. Like, he wasn't ever going to undermine Viserys, it didn't seem like, but I have no idea like where his storyline can go, because he has, I guess his daughters, or his oldest daughter would be the heir to Driftmark, because Laenor's would be the heir to the throne.
I
Is
would
that how that works?
say that Laenor's probably second son would end up being the heir to Driftmark.
Okay. And is it relevant at all at who of
Gets
Daemon's kids is
confusing.
the oldest? Meaning like the heir to his
Yeah, I mean technically,
fortune? Is it the one with the dragon?
technically Bela's older
Okay.
in the same way that I think Cersei's older
Cersei
than
and Jaime,
Jaime.
yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
And
Yeah. I
that,
just don't know
yeah.
where Daemon is going to go from here. Like he needs to be in the drama. He's so fun to watch. So like whatever is going to happen, I hope he just goes right back to Westeros and inserts himself somewhere.
Yeah, I'm just curious, I guess. So second half of these scenes, it ends up being our second labor scene of the episode because Rhaenyra opens up with one, but this one goes the same way that Rhaenyra's mother's went in episode 1, not as graphic for us, thankfully. In the behind the scenes, they even said like we were not going to do that again. We didn't want to A, have another scene like that, and B, it didn't feel like that would be the way Laena would go out. She even says a little bit earlier in these scenes that, she doesn't want to die like a fat lord. She wants to go out like a dragon rider, like a warrior. So they gave her this motivation to then find Vhagar. We've found out within that 10-year time skip that she has located Vhagar, claimed Vhagar, and has been riding Vhagar. That's just an unfortunate casualty of the time skip. It would have been really cool to actually see that kind of stuff. But she then crawls to Vhagar and is then Dracarys.
So many thoughts here, because first, I can't believe we didn't even start with that. The Dragon Riders, like that was amazing when they were flying in the air together, and like Daemon's having a good time. He's throwing his arms to the side and he's like looking at her. It looked like he was genuinely happy in the moment. And then it's so the CGI is so good on Vhagar that you can just clearly tell that it's way bigger than any dragon we've ever seen, and it is. It's the biggest in TV history for this universe, because we'll never see Balerion at this point. But Vhagar was great. Vhagar had me almost like emotional, because you could tell not any part of Vhagar wanted to actually Dracarys her. And oh my God, he was like growling and like, like a little dog would do, right? And it was just so hard to watch that part, but it was still pretty epic for Laena.
Oh, she's a badass. And I love
Yeah.
that she noticed what was going on and was like, fuck that. I'm going to walk my ass to Vhagar and get toasted.
Yeah.
It's sad. He didn't, you're right. It took her saying Dracarys like 5 sad times for it to actually go. But it was sad because, Daemon hated Rhea, right? There was despiseness there. But there was a tenderness with Laena. He might not have been happy. He might have been depressed. He might not know what he wants to do in life. But like, even when she was saying, I know I'm not exactly what you want, blah, blah, blah. He kind of looks at her like, Laena, like, yeah, she might not be perfect, but there was a tenderness there. And this was sad because she was a bad bitch. And it was making me sad when she's like, I miss Laenor. I miss my brother. I want to be with my family. They did a really good job building her up this episode, since she's been barely in it, to do a very good death at the end. I think that was well done. I miss her already. She was she was great.
I'm really happy you brought up that little moment when Daemon does react to her. Like he was going over the top, but it was like a couples fighting thing. And then she said that, and it was a step too far. And you saw like Daemon has genuine feelings for her. And and skipping ahead to the end, when he sees her burning, like he's going after her. That's the first time he's been truly rattled. And it wasn't to the point where I'm sure he was like breaking down crying and stuff, but it was still the most we'll probably ever get out of Daemon. And I guess this is a perfect time to bring up the deleted scene that. Did we talk about that in the chat? I don't know. It's been it's been going around viral how they deleted a scene of Daemon, talking to the kids after Lena's death and actually like hugging them and stuff, and they got rid of it. So I don't know what the thought process behind that would be. Maybe they didn't want Daemon to be too
emotional.
Too relatable, I guess, and emotional. Yeah, because I guess
yeah.
that might mean he's in for some crazy shit down the line or something, or it could have just been a timing thing. Either way, I'm sure I would have liked to see that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
for
I
sure.
agree. I didn't see that anywhere. I didn't see the deleted scene going on.
Yeah, and I guess one little funny comment: the surgeon who was, I guess, helping out with the labor. Fantastic beard. I just
Oh,
couldn't
yeah.
stop staring at it. He was talking, and it was supposed to be a very sad scene and everything, but I was just looking at this man's beard. He was a good actor because I really felt like the anguish on his face from like a medical perspective that he couldn't help her, but I just could not stop staring at his beard.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious if I know we kind of just like jumbled all of those things together. If there's anything that we might have missed that you guys want to talk about before we potentially move on.
How would Laena have, at age 15, like she says, like wrangled Vhagar and had any like build a connection with the oldest, biggest dragon? You could also, he's the oldest, right? You could see like the
Yes, and
wear
Vhagar
and
is
tear
a
on
she
him.
dragon, so technically a female.
I read that today. I love that.
Yeah. So I think it kind of depends. So it seems like a lot of times when riders end up claiming dragons, it's more about like ambition and like bravery and that like getting that dragon to respect you,
Okay.
you know? So and they kind of go back and forth on like how not maybe back and forth, but not like a concrete answer on how intelligent dragons actually are. I know we talked about it before of like, does Caraxes feel things that Daemon feels? Like, do they have this deeper connection? I feel like you can kind of see it too in Vhagar's reaction to like the wailing and the groaning, like Luke had mentioned. I think it has a lot to do with like, yeah, just that like aspect of bravery and ambition that like, wow, look at this little chick like coming up here, like kind of rocking with that, kind of like a personality match almost as well. But I don't really think they go into it like super scientifically.
Yeah.
Basically, she was just a little badass, walked up and was like, hey, I'm
Love
getting you
it.
back. And Vhagar was like, okay.
Well, because we did get an unbelievable amount of information for dragons in this episode compared
Oh
to
my
what we've
God.
known. Like even talking about like the bonds when they just hatch and like how they'll only ever listen to you way more than we ever got in Game of Thrones. So I loved all of that, but Kyle's right. It seems a little bit more like soft magic than hard magic, where it's not going to be clearly defined about the rules and it's kind of just let it up to fantasy. But if that's all we had there, I have one other thing I wanted to bring up for the
Yeah.
Pento stuff.
Okay.
Let's quickly just let's cover the Martell name drop of anything you got on this person because I know nothing.
Are you asking me that?
Yeah, is this the current king?
Be a prince, because even when they were independent, they were princes.
Okay.
The name doesn't mean anything to me.
Okay.
I could have missed something, but I think Dorne, like big Martell players come into play like later when like they actually start having wars again for Dorne, and then Dorne gets roped into the kingdom.
Okay.
So I did look up a lot of other people and things, but it didn't click enough for me to look up. So that's going to be my answer. Not
No,
very
that's
satisfying,
totally fine.
but that's going to be my answer.
That's totally fine.
Okay. So yeah, that's all that I got. So I mean, I guess we know the triarchy again may potentially become an issue as Viserys, to Viserys' great ire later in this episode that shit's going on again. All right, so we can now move from Essos when we're in Pentos, and we'll move back to Westeros, King's Landing, the actual opening of this episode. Rhaenyra in labor,
Wow.
giving birth to a baby boy, and is immediately summoned to the queen right after birth. I like how she gives a very, like, she asks out loud why to the servant, knowing that there's not going to be an answer that comes back the other way, just like letting out that frustration. So we have Rhaenyra giving birth, Rhaenyra and a kind of goofy Laenor, not really taking shit very seriously in this moment until the very end. And Rhaenyra and Laenor then walk through the Red Keep, and they present their new son Joffrey to Queen Alicent and King Viserys. So a lot of things kind of happen there. We just absolutely just open the floor to everything.
I can't believe we got an umbilical cord cut on screen.
I mean,
that fucked me up.
The noises.
Yes.
Ugh.
That it's the most accurate portrayal of what it would have been like to just be like a slimy birth in the fucking back in a billion years ago. However long it was.
Yeah.
And the afterbirth and everything.
Ugh.
I was like, if that was Emma's first scene they had to shoot, I'm like, God damn. I
And
doubt it was. It doesn't always end up being in order as what you shoot, but that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
she like walks through the castle and is leaving a trail of blood the entire first 10 minutes of this episode, dude. I was ugh.
Yeah, it's just so bad. There's a huge crowd of people that they have to walk through, and it doesn't help that in the beginning, Laenor, I guess, obviously doesn't really know what's going on. It's just their third child, so maybe he was very serious and attentive for the first one, maybe less so for the second one, and the third one is kind of like, oh, whatever. But very quickly, he kind of actually gets a little serious when they're going up the steps and everything, and she's clearly struggling because she just had a child, you know. No C-section type of shit. She just pushed out a child. And of course, at the end of this long, and actually really not that long of a journey, but I'm sure it felt like it was to her, arduous journey, who else is there to open the door to the King and Queen's chambers but our boy, Sir
No.
Criston Cole?
No, our boy. Hold the our boy.
All right. Criston Cole, hold the our boy. So we get a very interesting scene of them actually speaking with Alicent and Viserys. This is the first time we now have Rhaenyra and Alicent post time skip, and there is just absolutely no love there. It's so almost kind of awkward in a way that Viserys is so nice and happy and normal, and Alicent is clearly so not. It's just like, I'm sure that's such like the most uncomfortable scenario to be in every day for 10 years.
I've never seen anyone hold a grudge like Alicent holds a fucking grudge. Me and Alex watched last night, and we were on opposite ends of just Alicent. First of all, I adore Alicent. But I was like, she's being a bitch. Like, chill, girl. But Alex was like defending her, and I'm like, that's cool, actually. You're making great points. I'm just jokingly being like, but she's being a bitch. Like, that's your girl. Just like let her fuck around, you know?
She is being a bitch because the first thing she says to her was, "Oh, Rhaenyra, like you should be resting after your labors." Like she wasn't the one that called her to the chambers to stop her from resting. Like
she has a chip on her shoulder, and I don't see it ever going away. But Alicent really impressed me this episode. She is like stands on her own. She is obviously like someone who sits at court and people respect, and she has great ideas, and she knows how to be a queen. And I really love her, but I love Rhaenyra too. So it's tough to see them. These two girls who I thought were going to smooch ended up just hating each other. Star-crossed lovers.
It would be crazy if they smooch now.
It would be crazy.
What a journey that would be.
I think you're spot on with Alicent though, Kathleen. Like she's purely entertaining now. Like I think she's a great character. We kept saying at the last episode during the Green Wedding, quote unquote. I don't like it still. During the Green Wedding that she is now a player in the game. And that goes above and beyond in this episode. And I'm specifically thinking about the small council session that happens at the end. She is totally a force, like way more than Viserys in that room. And obviously Rhaenyra is, she always kind of was. And it's just good to see because you need more players like this. She's not like a Cersei level player, but she's mixing it up with like Lara Strong, like some of these big key pieces. So I'm sure that she's going to be at the center of something crazy that's happening probably next episode.
Yeah, and she doesn't hide it either. I mean, she will say out loud whatever she's thinking and will throw a dig whenever. Like Rhaenyra just had a child. Viserys is in there with his one arm. We feel like he has pretty much, I guess, maybe half of a left arm or no left arm anymore. And he's holding his grandson. And then Alicent's like, what's his name? And they're like, oh, it's Joffrey. And that's its own little weird thing where Laenor kind of names the kid without Rhaenyra. And Alicent just says, that's an unusual name for a Valyrian. Like, not even like, oh, like, so nice. Just like, she can't even be bothered to like show a semblance of like respect or anything like that. It's just really
and she
funny.
takes it farther by just saying, oh, maybe next one will look like you. And then just kind of like leaves it at that.
Yeah, that's a classic. There's not many quotes from the books, but that's like a classic quote from the book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's good that they actually kept that in there.
I mean, she's literally like, for anyone listening, I am peering around trying to get a look at this baby's head to see if this baby looks like a fucking Valerian or not, or a handsome Strong. My
And
hot
it
take of the
doesn't-
episode is that Harwin Strong's the hottest man that ever graced the Game of Thrones universe. That's
It
what I
doesn't
think.
make anything better that Daemon and Laena's kids look so Valerian, and then her kids look
Yes.
nothing, not even Targaryen. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy.
And Daemon even jokes about it in the,
Yeah.
we didn't talk about it, but when Laena says, like, my brother wrote, they've had a child, and he says, like, oh, what are the chances? Like, does it have some coincidental resemblance to the commander of the City Watch?
Mhm.
So even they know about it all the way across the Narrow Sea. So
Didn't know that he wasn't the commander of the City Watch anymore, though.
yes, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
So we have that, just our first showdown, I'm sure, of many between Alicent and Rhaenyra. Very short scene. Now we get Harwin Strong's reintroduction, Kathleen's hottest man in the history of Game of Thrones. And this is where we get the feeling that he is actually the father. I feel like you don't really know for sure in that first scene. You know something's up, but I guess you could maybe guess it was Harwin because the last episode. But here it's like, why is he here? Why is he asking to hold the baby? And then Laenor, like a gentleman, kind of in a weird cuckolded way, like kind of backs out of the room and is like, takes their other sons, who we meet their other sons actually here, Jacerys and Lucerys. It's just Jason Luke will be easiest.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you like that one.
Mhm.
So yeah, Jason Luke dip, and Harwin gets a little bit of alone time with his third son, Joffrey.
And we see that the dragon egg is on fire too for Joffrey.
Correct.
It's cute because Rhaenyra picked out the egg for Balon before he passed, obviously as an infant, and so this is the same thing. Her kids are picking out the egg that they're gonna give to the youngest, which I love.
Mhm.
But I just don't understand, like, what is this situation? Laenor and Rhaenyra, they don't hate each other. It's like just bang each other until you're pregnant, and then you can bang whoever you want. The kid has to be a Valerian. Like, why did they do this? It's like maybe Laenor couldn't get it up. Maybe they just couldn't figure it out timing wise. She was banging, but I'm like, dude, come on. I mean, you gotta try a little bit. You got to try.
I'm just gonna say my opinion is that this is pretty undefendable on Rhaenyra's part. Like seems like she knows the game almost as much as anybody, at least pre-time skip for whatever she was. What was she, like 15 at the time? Was she older? Kind of forget. Whatever, however she was. She knows. Like she can't do this. And the fact that she got real lucky that Viserys is being purposefully ignorant towards all this is the only thing that's holding this all together, because they say it multiple times throughout this. Like multiple different characters say, yo, you're all going to get killed and executed, and the only thing that's stopping this is Viserys being like, oh, that's their kids. Like, can't you see his nose in the kid? Like, you
Yeah.
fucking kidding me? Get the hell out of here.
No, we're good. I wanted to see how long that silence would go for. So we get now where the two other sons went. We get our first ever look at the dragon pit, which was not actually a thing, or it wasn't active, I guess you could say, in the main show Game of Thrones. So this is fucking awesome from like a nerd and lore perspective that we're in the fucking dragon pit. We're with like the cult of the dragon tamers, and we're watching people like learn how to tame their dragons. So we also get our first look at Prince Aegon, which is Viserys and Alicent's eldest child. We get also Prince Aemond. I'm sorry to speak over this. Prince Aemond, who is obviously their second son, and we get Vermax, which is Jace's dragon.
Is Aemon and Aemon a different name?
Yes, Aemond has a D on the end of it. It's Aemon with a
Okay.
D on the end of it.
Got you.
Yeah, it's
I
hard.
literally thought it was potentially the one from The Wall, and I was like, that
No.
probably doesn't track, right?
No, it's also, interestingly enough, it's Daemon's name and just moving the D to the end.
Okay.
So,
Oh.
I mean, everyone complains about how all the names are similar, and they're literally just rearranging the letters at this point.
Yeah, this was a really cool scene. I was pumped to be in the pits. These kids are rotten, but you know what was cute is the behind the scenes. These kids are so happy to be there. They are like thriving off of being on this show. They're sword fighting. They're having an absolute blast, and
awesome.
I love that for them. And I think they're good. I really enjoy. Like, I can't wait to watch them grow up and fight each other. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we find out that Aemon is the only one that does not have a dragon. And so the 3 other boys play a little bit of a prank on him. They dress up a pig and call it the Pink Dread. I thought it was actually good. I thought that was pretty funny. But we do get early signs that will continue in this episode that Aegon is a little bit of a cocksmack. He's a little bit of a douchebag.
Yes, correct.
I always question, like, how do they sell that to the kid? Like, what do they tell him to act like? Just become as unlikable as possible, besides being the OG Joffrey? Like, that's pretty much what he's doing.
He's
but it is
fantastic.
really cool that he's already kind of mastered his bond with Sunfire. They kind of dropped that earlier in the scene. That's a sweet dragon name, and I can't wait to see that dragon. But yeah, like, Aemon's gonna be the bullied middle child, and even like little was it Luke that was the one that was pulling the pig, or was that Jace?
Yeah, Luke is the little one.
Like,
So cute.
can't Aemon just like kick him down the stairs? Like, not that he should, because it's my namesake, but like, I feel like that guy's so little, and Aemon's just taking it from all the other siblings.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just one of the. I mean, you don't have a dragon, so you're not like.
Yeah,
it doesn't
that's true.
matter. Yeah, I mean, like you're pretty much you're a little boy at that point. Like they're
Mhm.
they're closer to becoming men almost. It's kind of just
No,
like a
good point.
classic. Yeah, like kids are just terribly mean to each other, and I'm sure like that is the easiest thing to just make fun of someone for, especially when you have a dragon. I'm sure that makes you feel like such a boss.
I was just gonna say the actor who plays Aegon is David Tennant's son, which is cool.
Oh,
Like-
isn't that was he used to play Doctor Who, right?
Yep.
Oh wow,
Mhm.
that's an
That's
interesting.
Yeah, and so
connection.
did Matt Smith. So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
all
that's
very-
that's an interesting connection.
Yeah.
Um,
Ty
do
Tennant
we
is his name.
do we know why Aemon doesn't have a dragon? Does that mean that the egg didn't hatch, or he doesn't have an egg?
That would have meant the egg. At this point, it would have meant the egg didn't hatch. It's similar to
Okay.
we see Rhaenyra, who is Daemon, and Laena's daughter. She is the same thing. She has her egg. She's holding it by the fire, but it's been 8 years, and I think Laena even says to her, like half of them don't hatch anyway.
Okay, so I guess so. The takeaway from the small council scene later, because that was my next question, was when Rhaenyra offers to give Aemon first pick of the eggs if Syrax does come back with a clutch. I was just wondering, like, are these eggs not hatching because they're not because of the bravery thing? Like, they're not attaching to him and it wouldn't change anything? Was it a bad egg? So I just like had all these questions because they're feeding us, trickling us small bits of information about these, and I
Yeah.
guess that just naturally leads to us asking these like hard rule questions, which going back, I don't think we're really going to get all of it.
Yeah, I think the egg thing is interesting in that it really does seem like a pure chance thing almost. I don't know if there's anything specific you can do to like increase the chances that it hatches. I'm sure you obviously need to keep it like hot and heated. That's why they store them on like the hot coals and everything. The whole bravery, personality, ambition thing is more with like living dragons who don't have a rider.
So how does that play in with Daenerys? Because she kind of went rogue and just burned herself with the 3 eggs, and they all hatched on the spot. That doesn't seem. I guess that's just an impossible to answer question.
Yeah,
I'm just
that's
thinking out
more of
loud.
like a. Yeah, I don't know how to.
Prophecy thing. Like,
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, like the comet's there, and there's a lot of other things kind of going on in the background.
yeah.
So that would be the only thing I could say about that.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone actually knows the answer to that. Besides, and I was gonna say besides George, but does George even know the answer? We don't know at this point.
Who knows?
Yeah, we don't know at this point. So we go from the boys teasing and our introductions to them to we meet a grown-up Princess Helena. So Princess Helena was the little baby that was crying and wailing in Alicent's arms while Rhaenyra was banging out Criston Cole. She's grown up. She is quite the contrast to all of the young boys that we've met in this episode. She's very reserved. She seems very quiet. She's very interested in insects, which it seems like Alicent, like obviously loves her, but seems to have a little bit of a hard time kind of connecting with her. She seems, even when we meet her, she seems just like kind of reclusive and kind of keeps to herself. And their kind of conversation is interrupted by Aemon coming in and getting reprimanded by Alicent, because clearly this is not the first time that he's kind of fucked around. I forgot, and we totally skipped that. I'm sorry, he dives into the dragon pit and gets confronted by a dragon and runs away.
Do we know who that dragon is? Because at the beginning I was like, it's Vhagar. I was like, he came back because he's lonely because Laena was in the past. And then I was like, wait, does that make sense?
I saw online that it was Dreamfire.
Who
Because
belongs?
Dreamfire is Helena's dragon.
Oh,
So Helena is a dragon rider as well. So she rides Dreamfire, Aegon rides Sunfire. And I haven't seen it really confirmed anywhere besides like someone made a picture. So that's all I got to say. I don't know. It's hard to tell. The only thing we also know about Dreamfire in the books is that it literally says that Dreamfire is the most beautiful dragon ever.
oh,
And that dragon felt more like imposing and big versus beautiful. So I don't know if that'll actually turn out to be true.
Yeah. Okay.
I just want to say that when obviously Aemond cries to Alicent, and this is true, like any family, it's like, then Alicent's like, let me go to Viserys and tell him what happened. And Viserys like, this motherfucker thought there was another dragon just waiting for him, that these kids found a dragon. Like the way he reacts is so funny. He's like, well, he's an idiot. Why would he think that? It's like so classic, like husband and wife shit talking their kids behind closed doors. It cracked me up. Viserys was killing me this episode. He was in such a good mood. He's in the best health I've seen him in 5 episodes. Like he's fine. He's like slow and he has no hair and whatever, but he's like chilling. Like earlier, Rhaenyra's like, I called the midwife a cunt, and he's just like, tap her on the back, like nice, like
Yeah.
smooch on the cheek. It's like all good spirits. He's like, I'm a new granddad today. Fucking right.
It's awesome, honestly.
That's
It
a great
is.
point because I was definitely focusing so much on how he looks, and he looks horrific. Sorry to my boy, but you look
Yeah, he does.
terrible. But you're right. He does seem like he's in very good spirits.
He's
Yeah.
getting Alki sent us the picture comparison. Kathleen, I don't know if you've seen all of Lord of the Rings, but the Smeagol comparison, and it's just
yeah.
because the character, you see the transformation from human, whatever, hobbit to what he is, and looks pretty close to what Viserys is looking like now. He just like pieces of hair, and his skin is just awful, but he is happy, man. So need a bright spot in King's Landing.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah. And he goes from being happy to, I guess, the one thing it seems like at this point in his life that will make him not happy is Alicent pestering him about the fact that Rhaenyra is having babies with Harwin Strong and not with her husband Laenor. And he just, I mean, obviously this is not the first time this has happened. He just, again, tosses her off and is like, don't ever talk about this again, which Alicent obviously proceeds not to do.
And she was bringing it up in front of the guy working on the sandcastle with Viserys. So,
The guy, you mean Eddard?
Yeah, Eddard.
Hey, a little Ned
Sorry.
Stark shout out maybe there.
Sorry.
You're good. I apologize to Eddard, not to me. I don't really care.
Sorry, Eddard.
I'll let him know.
Like Alicent was kind of right to a point about like saying this is like crossing a line for what you're doing to the throne's lineage. It doesn't matter too much because you're still gonna have a Targaryen there. But if I'm Lord Corlys, I would be going to war. Like I don't know what. It's fine if you're Viserys, like your lineage is still going, and like Rhaenyra, like who cares? She's happy. Her lineage is still going. But it all comes down to how Rhaenys and Corlys react to this. Who I don't even know if they're alive still. I would assume they are, but like we don't know.
I had the same line written. Like I cannot wait to see how Corlys reacts to these three stooges walking around with Harwin's hair.
So I think it's interesting that the way that Alicent rather like puts forth her argument and the reasoning is she's harping on this idea of duty and decency. Like she has been, like this was the original reason that she was mad at Rhaenyra, was that she was flouting this idea of decency and duty. And now it's kind of been 10 years, I guess, continuously of her doing that. So, I mean, it's been 10 years of Alicent. This is why the relationship is so fractured. And again, I really think they're trying to push forth that idea that there is a little bit of jealousy involved from Alicent's side.
I also I didn't really get into this as part of Alex's argument. I think Alicent, which we see when she's like to Aegon, when she's like, after he's done jerking off into all of King's Landing, when she's like, you are like, you're the reason you're gonna get killed. They're gonna kill you. You're standing in the way of her succession, or like her heirs and her ascending the throne. And that's like, I was not thinking that, like, just like Otto warned her, like Rhaenyra is going to want to get rid of anyone that opposes her to the throne, right? So she's a threat to her children. And it's like, you're worried about your heirs that aren't even, they're like bastard children. They're not even legit Valyrians, and they're gonna like put my kids in harm. Like, that's fucked up. And I was like, that's a great reason to be mad. So that's a good one, if that counts. Because
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely the argument there that she has a legit grievance.
yeah.
And I mean, she kind of throws it out here too. After the scene, she leaves Viserys, obviously not happy with their conversation. Who does she turn to? Our boy Criston Cole. And they have a little pity party for themselves and a little bit of a roast party for Rhaenyra here.
But the best part about it was how Alicent still kind of cared about Rhaenyra's honor when he drops the hard C.
Yeah.
And that to me was unexpected, but at the same time, like, I don't think that they're at the point where they'll kill each other.
Yeah.
And that's good, because even Rhaenyra says in the small council meeting later, like, once upon a time we were even friends, like, we're family, like, let's make this work. So I like that she wasn't in for, I think Criston Cole hates Rhaenyra more than anybody in the entire world right now. So it's good to know, like, that Alicent's hatred is not as bad as his, because fuck Criston Cole. But yeah, that was just a quick little line that or quick little moment that I liked.
He goes pretty far, yeah. Well, he says that she is a spider who stings and sucks her prey dry. Like, what? Where are you getting that from, my man? Like, you wanted to run away with her, yeah. And she was like, nah, dude, like, I need to be queen. That doesn't, like, he thinks that she used him and played him. And it was 10 years ago. It's like, brother, you gotta get over that shit, dog. Yeah, he looks fantastic. He does. I don't know what you want to say.
Them two fighting is a handsome off. I'll tell you that. Okay, Harwin versus Sir Criston Cole.
Yeah, we can even dive into that, because Kathleen, I think, very eloquently described this next scene of Aegon just JOing into King's Landing. Just very quick question. I'm sure you've seen it on the internet, but did you recognize the window?
Oh, Tommen's window, baby.
Yeah, Tommen's
I didn't
window.
even read it. I was like, that looks like a suicide window.
Yeah, so
trigger warning.
That window has definitely seen a lot. So moving now to the yard, one of the bigger scenes of the entire episode, we have Sir Criston being kind of a little master at arms here. He's instructing all four of the boys technically in the art of sword fighting, and Sir Harwin is there and is kind of noticing that it's really not instructing all four of them, and he's kind of just really focusing on Alicent's kids. Calls him out, leads to a little bit of I wouldn't even say it's really a scuffle between Aegon and Jace, because it's kind of technically they're in like a sparring match, but Criston Cole obviously has this vendetta against even Rhaenyra's kids at this point, and it gets a little too far. Harwin's got to step in to defend his quote unquote sons.
The strong boys, man. Jace could fight. Aegon could not.
Yeah. I mean, again, just one more line read by Viserys being like, this is the stuff, Lionel. Like, about them fighting. Like, who is this guy? And Lionel's just like, okay. It was really cute. I enjoyed it. But this is like classic TV where if Criston Cole was on his back taking absolute monster punches to the face against the ground, he would not be able to be like, that's what I thought. Like, you know, like, he would have been absolutely hurting. But it sucks that Harwin took the bait, because Criston Cole was smart. That's what he was trying to do. He wasn't going to even fight back, even if he wanted to, because he just wanted him to admit that there was something there, and that just it gives it away that he's actually the father. But Harwin's a great dad too. This is why I'm like, he's so handsome, because he's such a good guy too. Like him in that big old armor and just like taking care of his kids. He like cares, and like him holding the baby. I was like, you better stop.
Yeah, no, he's definitely a boss. This is, while it's technically for him, it's a bad scene. This was a great scene.
Kyle, quick question for you. If you think Criston Cole and Harwin Strong were to fight actually with swords, because I was expecting like a real sparring match, like him saying, let me show you how it's done, to like his kids basically, but it just turned into the beatdown just to make a point, I guess, by Criston Cole. If they were to fight, my instinct would have said Harwin Strong, but honestly, Criston Cole's a renowned fighter and he has real battle experience. So would you, if you had to put your money on one of them?
So this is an interesting question because canonically in the books, Criston Cole would win because
Okay.
they have fought in the books at like a tourney, and Criston Cole like fucks him up, like breaks his elbow, like breaks his collarbone, like absolutely destroys him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but it seems like in the show, I don't know. They seem to have their own motivations for things, so I could see them making Harwin win.
Yeah.
Criston Cole beat Daemon.
Yeah.
Daemon's a great fighter, isn't he?
Yeah, for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, my money would go on to Criston Cole. I just think that was the perfect question because that's a big change from the books.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, my heart, of course, would want Sir Harwin Strong to win.
Me too.
But yeah, but also this is was a nice thing from the behind the scenes in that they say that Alicent is kind of, so she obviously thinks that what she's doing is correct and right. You know, she's coming from this, they use the word righteousness. She wants to stay on the side of righteousness, of, you know, duty and decency and things like that. And Criston Cole is obviously now like kind of her sworn shield. Like they're a little bit of a team at this point. And he is technically like on that side of righteousness. He's feeding into that idea with her, but his twisted idea of righteousness, you know, because like they even said that he feels like it's his duty to expose Rhaenyra's transgressions rather, because it's bad that she's doing this, that she's having kids out of wedlock. But this is the twisted way that twisted Criston Cole goes about doing that.
Should have killed himself.
I won't comment on that. I won't comment on that.
My mic was muted, but I had to unmute to laugh into the mic. That's good
Thank
stuff.
We will just we're just gonna move on. So we move on to Rhaenyra finding out the aftermath of this. So she is told by, I guess it's like a handmaiden or something, and we get to see the secret passageway again. So she uses that same secret passageway that that kind of Daemon showed her about, and she is spying on Harwin and Lionel, arguing about what the hell went down in the practice yard.
I love this conversation so much. Like Lionel is the best in all the kingdom to be the hand. Like he is the number one pick after like this episode. He's just always been consistent. We've been saying it forever, but how he treated this whole scandal, he is like as honorable as it comes and like as rational as you can really be, just because like he says, I've been purposely ignorant like Viserys has for all these years, but what you did in the hall, you basically just defended your kids. This is fucked up. There's almost no coming back from this, and it leads to him even trying to give up the title as Hand of the King. But I just can't get enough of Lionel, and it's so unfortunate that he is no longer around.
R.I.P. the boys.
Yeah, Kathleen, for your point of point scoring for Harwin and making him handsome outside of maybe just pure looks, I just love the line that ends the argument, and that you have your honor and I have mine. You know, he could not stand there and let Criston Cole let these kids beat the shit out of his kids. He just was no way, no how was it ever going to let that happen.
Well, he's like, I wish my father would turn a blind eye. What the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
He's like, Viserys is just not turning a blind eye. And he's like, well, what the fuck? That's what fathers should do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nah, dude, our boy Lionel is he's too straight and narrow for that.
Yeah, he's a little too much. Come on, that's your kid.
So we move from one argument, a strong argument, to a different argument now. So we have Rhaenyra and Laenor. So Laenor, again, is continuing this idea that he's kind of a goofball. It feels like he doesn't really care. He's just kind of cavorting around, just doing whatever he wants to fucking do. And Rhaenyra kind of has to sit him down and like, listen, bro, like shit's happening fast here and we're in a bad spot. So you need to like be by my side now. Like you can't keep doing all of this crazy shit that I've let you do for 10 years.
So my question here is, when she's like, the bad guys are afoot, basically they're at our doors, they're knocking down the doors. She says they are vile, disgusting insinuations. Now, okay, this is behind closed doors. Like, why? And Laenor's like, are they insinuations? Are they not talking about the fact that they're not his kids. They both know they're banging other people. So why behind closed doors are these two pretending like they're Laenor's kids? Like Rhaenyra, I feel like is turning a blind eye. Rhaenyra is not admitting to herself that they're not Laenor's kid. I'm so confused by this.
I think
think-
Laenor definitely knows. He
No, yeah,
100%
Oh,
yeah,
They
like
both
everybody
know.
knows. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
and I
why
think
is
you're
she-
right.
It's weird.
Rhaenyra is just choosing to not say it out loud, and if she doesn't say it out loud, it's not real.
I think
That's
it's-
how she's trying to do it.
I think it's twofold. I think part of it is like how they tell you to always use your turn signal, even when you're in like a turning lane or like no one's behind you.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Of like developing that habit of always
Mm.
doing it so that there's no chance that you ever slip up on it. I think is
Mhm.
one part of it. And the second part is that we just saw Rhaenyra sneak through a secret passageway to spy in on a conversation that no one else was supposed to hear. So she knows of the presence of all of these passageways. So I think that's just another layer of being extra
Yeah.
careful because she knows the potential for that is out there.
I love that. I take that.
Yeah.
Because Rhaenyra in
I
no
thought-
scene ever says it.
Right.
Even
100%.
when it's even at the end when it's just her, Harwin, and the kids. Obviously, she doesn't want to say it in front of the kids, but even then, she does have the one when Jace asks her like, "Is he my father?" and she looks into the room and then says, and she still doesn't really say anything about it. So I really think that's how I'm taking it. I don't know if we'll ever get that confirmed, but that's the way I
Yeah.
took it.
I'm really
like that.
enjoying fun Laenor. He's just
I
good
agree.
vibes too. Him and Viserys are just good vibes. Like he comes in with his boy toy Carl with no you, and just like they're just hanging. And he
Car with a Q,
first of all,
bro.
yeah, with no you.
Oh, okay. I was like, what?
Is he an actor from something? I feel like I recognized him. I didn't look into the casting, but because I'm sure he'll come back into play because he's now going to Dragonstone with Rhaenyra and the family. So I also am a little worried for him because it's not worked out for Laenor's love interest. So I'd watch out for this guy to have a horrible death. But I do like Laenor, and I kind of even respect him going with this whole idea that he does want the adventure and he wants to go back out to war. And he says, like, it's only going to be for a couple months. Like, I need to do this. Like, I need to just do things besides being your +1 who, like, we're not even like really in love. So I kind of respect him asking for it, but then she goes full queen, like, you're commanded to stay now. You don't have a choice, because Laenor was pretty happy about it. But you know, I feel like they ended up at a happy medium where he gets Carl, they go to Dragonstone, which is still within shot of the war if they need to go to it. So probably worked out for Laenor the best this episode.
Yeah, it's just it's just funny to see him act like this. I don't know what it is. Like he's obviously it's a function of the fact that they're not really his kids and he knows they're not his kids. So he only really needs to play the part of dad in public, but in reality, he doesn't have any real obligations to them, I guess, in his mind. And it's just funny to see a character like this because there's so much seriousness in House of the Dragon versus I think Game of Thrones at times. So it really stands out when someone is as goofy as this motherfucker's been acting.
Yeah, and old Laenor was not goofy at all.
No.
So that's a weird, and you could argue that, okay, Laenor's love of his life also died. And after that, he's like, all right, well, fuck it. Turn to the drink and singing songs with my boy toy. So I buy it.
Yeah,
Fine.
definitely a
Fine
way
by me.
potentially to grieve there. So
Yeah.
we move now. We're back in small council meetings. We have an
Yes.
expanded council. So we have some more bodies in the room. And again, this is just another perfect display of the breakdown of the relationship between Rhaenyra and Alicent. They have some really good back and forth. There's a lot of little subtle things that happen in this scene. And personally, it feels good to have a contentious small council scene because these are always great.
The best, the highlights usually.
Question.
And first, yeah, go ahead. You first. I got a
I
question.
was just going to ask, how often is council? Daily, weekly?
It would probably
what
end
do you
up
think?
depending on like the king themselves. Viserys seems like a fairly happy-go-lucky guy. So and he's not very healthy. So I would almost seem like if it's like almost like on an as needed basis.
Okay.
But I feel it's so hard to say because it definitely goes like by king and by hand almost.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, because I wasn't sure like how often they're meeting, and like Viserys also just hates hearing about the stepstones. So he's probably like, let's not have one today.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's not do this. Also, just one last thing. I'm obsessed with the like stone ball, the fidget spinner that they all have. I'm obsessed with it. It's so cool. Like Emma as Rhaenyra just sitting there playing with the fidget spinner. I was like, that is so cool. I need one of those for my desk.
I really want one, actually. I could use one here because I just on my desk constantly picking things up as we do these. So that would be kind of fun to just spin that ball around.
Yeah, that's so cool.
All right, my questions are: one, is this a new Grand Maester? And does this defeat all of your prior theories about the old Grand Maester?
So this is a new Grand Maester. This is Grand Maester, I believe his name is Orwyle. And I would say you could argue that it confirms those theories because, as Kathleen has said, she has not seen Viserys look this healthy in a long time.
And he's been gone since Otto's been gone, which was kind of part of your thing.
So there's that. I mean, Viserys obviously doesn't look great, like I've said, but as Kathleen has so aptly pointed out, he seems to be in fairly high spirits. So
in this scene is the first time he like coughs all episode. I'm pretty sure I may have missed a cough or two, but he like does cough in this point. But you got to think it's 10 years after he was fainting 5 times in one episode. So like he looks great. He does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe not great. Let's not go.
Yeah. I mean, all he has to do is cut that hair off. Like, what is going on? Like, there's no need to have that hair. It's crazy. But you know who's not as good at this table is Lord Beesbury, because that man is asleep.
Yeah, he is. Wow. He's not figuring it out, and that's our master of coins. So that's not so great.
And did I see a Lannister there? Was that Jason's twin? That wasn't Jason.
No, that is Tyland.
Okay, the brother, which makes sense because he seemed a little bit more normal.
Yes, yeah, he is. Tyland is a character that people really like a side character that people like.
Yeah.
Because he just is kind of, I guess you could say, normal compared to like a lot of times. Obviously, getting stories, people are fairly hyperbolic, while Tyland's just kind of a guy.
Never mind. Sorry, I couldn't hear at all.
Okay,
but I think it was just me. I think it was just me.
So before we get to the real fun blow up here, Kyle, you gotta mention the Blackwoods and the Brackens. Is that their names, right?
Yep, correct.
Yeah.
So
that escalated.
Yes, they're back at it again. They're fucking around with each other. And we do get a Tully name drop. We have a Lord Grover Tully, who would be a long ancestor of Catelyn Stark, who used to be a Tully. Lysa Arryn, who used to be a Tully. Holy shit, I forgot about their brother's name.
The Blackfish, Brendan.
Yeah, Brendan's their uncle, and their brother, who gets married at the Red
Edmure?
Edmure, yeah, nice. Yes. There you go.
Yes.
And what else? Oh, and very important, I think, in this scene, it actually happens twice. So with the Blackwoods and the Bracken dispute, Alicent settles on an answer kind of by herself, and then Rhaenyra is against that answer and says that, we should step in and talk to the small folk, and Lionel is like, yeah, that shouldn't be too hard, and Alicent kind of laughs and goes like, of course. And Lionel clocks it. And she's obviously saying that because of the Harwin Strong rumors. And then the second time is they're talking about the triarchy. And this is Jasper Weidel, I believe. Jasper Weidel is the new Master of Laws who just replaced Lionel when Lionel ended up becoming Hand. So he got a little promotion. And he kind of calls out Daemon about how they just let the stepstones slip away. And Rhaenyra is of the mind that they should have stayed there and establish a permanent presence, while Alicent is on the other side of that and is like, no, it's too expensive, and then calls the meeting off. And now we get the actual important part of the meeting is Rhaenyra standing up before the council and proposing that her eldest son, Jace, marry Helena to reconcile their families and maybe potentially rekindle that friendship and get Kathleen that kiss that she is really looking forward to.
Oh, you're muted.
Alicent's face was like this. Fine, we'll think about it.
Yeah, she does wave it right off.
This is a win. Every time there's a proposed marriage, it's always a win, and they never freaking do it. Like, this is such a win.
Yeah, look at Viserys. He's so happy. He's like, that is a handsome gift. An egg? Handsome gift. Thank you.
He's like, yeah. Marriage and an egg? I love you, my girl. He's so happy. You're so right. I can't believe I didn't really clock it the first 2 times of like how happy and joyful he is throughout the episode.
He is.
A
That's
generous gift.
that's so good. Yeah, and Rhaenyra has an unfortunate mishap, and
Yeah.
things turn a little sour and awkward for her, and then the meeting kind of ends.
Mm-hmm.
So we get the immediate aftermath of this meeting is Alicent and Viserys walking back to their chambers and discussing the proposal. And again, we get Viserys like, this is great. Like, I can't. He is already planning the wedding in his head. He can't wait to throw the feast, have the tourney, watch the jousting. And Alicent turns to him and says, "Over my dead body."
Literally.
I was like, damn.
I feel like Alicent needs to know that Aegon is the worst. So like, why would you want, if you're gonna have one of your kids be on the throne, why would you want it to be him? Like you could, this is a free out. I guess we did see that weird moment with Helena earlier. Maybe she feels weird about Helena. I don't really know what that vibe is yet. I need more scenes with her to really kind of guess what's going on. But again, this should just be signed, sealed, delivered before you even walk out of that room.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously Viserys thinks so, and it feels like a larger argument might be brewing as she is kind of setting him up in a chair, and he's kind of saved in a weird way by Lionel. Now, immediately after the council meeting where he clocked that Alicent had that reaction to him agreeing with Rhaenyra, he tries to resign his hand. Viserys is having none of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, again, props to Alicent. Like, she's no longer that like feeble young girl who was married to the king, who didn't really have her own like standing in the world, right? She is throwing him in that chair, fluffing his pillow and being like, sit. And he's like, no blanket. She throws a blanket over his head, basically. She's like, fuck yourself. But like, she is taking care of him, but in a way where she's like, they're finally like husband and wife. She kind of treats him like, you're my elderly dad. Like, get in the fucking chair and listen to me. Like, I like that she defies him. I like that. I like that about her. So it's all good for me on the Alicent front, even though she's crazy. I think she's one of the funnest to watch. And I think the acting in this episode specifically is banging. But yeah, this Lionel scene, he is too good. He's too good. And he signed his death warrant right there, really. He did. Yeah.
I mean, Viserys is like, dude, no, you're literally the only one that I know for a fact is not going to be like doing some crazy shit behind my back. Like, you always have just been this guy that tells me how it is. I refuse to let you do this.
Yeah. And they settle for the middle ground of letting him send Harwin back to Harrenhal to be the heir. And that's going to lead to a question itself. But the first thing I want to say is that I was pretty surprised at how casually Viserys is just like, yeah, he was expelled from the City Watch. Like, I thought that would take a lot more because he was the commander of it. And I guess punching a Kingsguard is like a huge deal, but the way Viserys delivered the line, he was like, we already expelled him from the City Watch. Like, that seems like a huge demotion. And it is.
I mean, I guess purposely so.
Harwin was also manhandling Aegon. Like, Aegon was like, how dare you touch me? Like, very Joffrey of him. Like, Game of Thrones.
Yeah. I am the king.
Yeah. So, I don't know, but it sucks for my boy.
So, but Harrenhal, what happened there? Because I feel like there was nothing going on in Harrenhal when we get to Game of Thrones era, and we just have the tickler that's there. We have Tywin Lannister takes over there for a little bit with Arya as the cupbearer. I totally thought Harrenhal just never really had like an ancestral house once Balerion destroyed it, because that was like the whole thing, right? Like, it was supposed to be the biggest fortress ever. They spend all this time setting up, and the day they finished is the day Aegon gets to Westeros and then destroys it. So I just wasn't expecting to hear Harrenhal to the Strongs, I guess.
They mention it a little bit in Game of Thrones of that it's just like kind of cursed, and that it just like it even cycles through how many different owners does it have throughout Game of Thrones. It has, I mean, at least I think 3 or 4. So it just kind of has that mystique to it that it never really ends up having a permanent owner, a permanent house. Like, all the other big castles have houses that live in them and have long storied histories, while Harrenhal can't just seem to keep somebody around.
Gotcha.
And I will say that they never got to this this is just like Lionel Strong backstory, and they obviously won't get to it. But part of the reason why he is such a savage and he's such a beast is that he went to the Citadel. So he was going to be a maester. He forged like 6 chains, like he was really into like studying the law and all this stuff. And then he kind of left the Citadel and became like a little bit of like a knight-ish warrior. He didn't become a sir, but then he started fighting, and he kind of almost, if you're familiar with Wheel of Time, Luke, I know you are, he is like Perrin in that like he's this big guy who's like very soft spoken and kind of like is very thoughtful. So people think that he's stupid, but in reality, like he went to the fucking Citadel. He was, studied shit for years. So he is like a very smart and capable man. I didn't know if they would ever touch on that, but obviously our boy is gone. So I figured I would just throw that in there.
Sad.
Yeah, it is very sad. So I guess speaking of his end, and we got the ball rolling here in this next scene, which is seems to be like a regularly scheduled dinner between Alicent and Larys Strong.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what that was about. I think that was kind of the point of it, but they do seem to have some type of like a back and forth, like a report. They have like kind of they're joking a little bit in the beginning, like they're very familiar with each other, I guess you could say. And this is just a great scene because this is what we had been looking for earlier with young Alicent, and that we have a confidant for Alicent, and where she can actually like speak about how she's feeling more so than Criston Cole, because Criston Cole is kind of like a wet dish towel and he's just anti-Rhaenyra, while Larys Strong's actually like an intelligent conversational counterpart. So I just thought this was a fantastic scene for Alicent.
Fucking Larys, man. He is. Do you see that whole scene? His head is like this. I don't know if you guys call it that, but he like talks to her sideways the entire time. Just cinematography knows that this dude is an evil motherfucker. Like he's basically like he's still I would consider him the master of whispers without the actual title. Like he is evil. I think he's closer to evil Varys than I would say he's Littlefinger, but at the same time, isn't that what I guess he's a mix of both of them, really? Like he just is that position of like spy networks, you can tell. And he's like a top dog. Like he has all the information. He knew about Lionel Strong's conversation like 5 minutes after it happened. I don't really know how that worked out, but it's just crazy how like he is going to be such an important character and seems like a evil force.
I agree.
I love the way that they make him seem very smart, in that I just like the small little thing where she's like your father attempted to resign as Hand of the King, and it goes on, then he goes like, okay, like I noticed you said attempted, like what happened? Just like the way that he catches on those little things and just speaks in general, I'm just really, really actually kind of fucking in love with. Again, this is like a perfect example, similar to Criston Cole, in that reading him on a page is like, okay, yeah, this guy gets up to some stuff, but seeing it acted out and like live is like, oh my God, you're so drawn to the character. Like he just becomes so much more interesting when you actually watch it happen and play out. And I also like that he is like a kind of like a twisted version of his dad a little bit in this scene to Alicent. He's kind of saying to her, like, not really calling her out, but he does kind of say to her, like, you're saying that your father would come here and give unbiased counsel to the king, but there's no fucking way that's actually true. Like, that's why he got fired. And you knew that, like, there was things he was doing in the background. And she was like, kind of admits it, like, he would be partial to me. Like, that's why I want him here. And it's like, okay, that's there it is. That's the actual truth.
Yeah. He's a great actor too. He is slaying that role. Big props.
I'm begging him to make it out of season 1 because he needs to be in season 2.
Agreed.
Yeah, he's definitely part of the recipe for success, I think, for the future of what's going to happen in the show for sure. And part of that is right here, moving down to kind of how he reacts to Alicent in the previous scene when she says, I don't really have any allies. Like, I wish my dad was here and all this kind of stuff. And so he kind of now takes things into his own hands. He tries to read between the lines of what she's saying. And he goes down to the black cells for some resources, I guess you could say. And these might be, I guess, if we're going to keep with these Littlefinger Varys comparisons, these are now his new little birds. He takes some prisoners, cuts their tongues out, and then sets them on a mission.
It's impossible to talk about this without bringing up Euron Greyjoy a little bit, right? Because that's how he rolls with his pirate crew. Just no tongues, can't rat on your master. You
Yep.
can't do
Yeah.
anything bad. So it's just like you're just a pure servant, and they were all gonna die. So why not? Like it seems it was a good move on his part.
I'd rather die.
Yeah, I mean, me too.
Don't chop
but-
my tongue off. I'd rather die.
Yeah,
you're right.
I don't. Yeah, do I want to live so bad? I don't know. Hanging would suck though.
It would,
Yeah.
especially back then. They don't have the weights right. Like they don't have the proportion. Like
I
I've
don't
seen
know. They
so
were
many
pretty good
shows
at
like-
it. I feel like they do it a lot more than we did.
Maybe I don't know, but I've seen shows like I think spoiler alert. There's maybe in The Killing, this guy is on death row and they fuck up the like weight distribution and he's just hanging there, kind of like fidgeting and being like, it's
Ooh.
brutal.
Ugh.
Good show.
Okay, that's
Good
bad.
show.
Yeah, I would just rather get beheaded.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's also kind of
Guillotine
badass.
style.
Yeah, it's kind of bad. I mean,
Yeah.
as long as they don't do it Rob Stark style and actually get it through with one cut, but seems like that would be the best option. All right, so we kind of get a little bit of small scenes running through here, but we'll try to just kind of get through them in the most coherent way we possibly can. So we get a little bit of a sad scene here. So we move to the other strong brother. We have Sir Harwin and Rhaenyra's semi-tearful goodbye. They're keeping it together in front of the kids, but inside they're definitely fairly heartbroken. And he says a very sad line to her and to the kids that I'll be a stranger when we meet again.
Fuck me.
I
up.
thought that was more for the baby.
it was for the baby because yeah, it was just to the baby, but it was still a fuck me up line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was very surprised by Jace knowing that that was his father. Like that took me, I just did not even think that the kids would be, I guess, old enough to really go out on a limb and guess that, even though everyone's probably whispering about it now. But that was pretty crazy because I don't know if that's like the scene with Rhaenyra and Jace talking about it for like 1 second. I don't know if that's going to lead to Jace knowing that he's a bastard, like not trusting his mom anymore, or if that was just like an emotional reaction about his dad actually leaving. So I don't know how that's going to go, but I'm hoping like Rhaenyra's not fighting an uphill battle while having to like make her kids back on her side.
I took note of that, Luke, and I was like, I was on the side of he didn't look like he was like pissed at her, which was nice. And I hope that's how it goes as well. Because he let her like kiss his forehead and like put him back in the room and stuff like that. It wasn't like he was like, fuck you, you're not my mom,
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is how
Yeah,
it
yeah.
usually would go. But on the side of I'm surprised Jace knows, fucking Aegon is teasing him about it behind, like, he's just heard
That's
about
true.
it and being a little dick about it as well. Like,
Mhm.
well, I heard your dad's not your dad, like type shit.
That's certainly how he would say it too.
Yeah.
And her response to that is just, you are a Targaryen. That's all that matters. So it's not a denial, not a confirmation, kind of a confirmation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is what pushes Rhaenyra over the edge to say, all right, time to get the hell out of here. And then she
Yeah.
goes to talk to Laenor, right?
Yeah. And I just think that it's we kind of talked about this a little bit. Important part I would just want to bring up is that Laenor actually turns around and questions the move, because he does say to her, like, the reason that we've stayed here so long is because you don't want Alicent to have so much influence over your dad, over the king. And now you're just going to cede that position to her. So he is obviously thinking of that line. And I think that's also kind of a line to the audience in a way of like, this is how things might go in the future.
What does this do for their marriage proposal? Is that just off the table now between the kids? Or if they get married, they would both live in King's Landing, I would assume.
I would
don't
say
know.
it's done. I mean, he
Yeah.
says, what of the proposal? And she's like, fuck it, let's go. They're whispering behind my back. I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she also probably took of like there wasn't an outright yes, so it's a no. Kind of, you know
Okay.
what I mean? Like Alicent tells in front of everyone else, like, oh, we'll think it over, which was just obviously going to be a no.
Yeah.
I think Rhaenyra kind of read between the lines there. So we get, oh God, these are weird scenes to talk about. So we get Harwin and Lionel. They are heading back to Harrenhal. We actually get to see Harrenhal. And we just get a quick look of Larys's freshly tongueless ex-prisoners hanging out on the little hillside. And unfortunately, we watch Harwin burn alive, and then we find out obviously that his father died as well. So mission is accomplished. And then we get kind of Laris has this monologue that stretches over multiple scenes. So it's the first scene is going to be Rhaenyra and the squad arrive back at Dragonstone. She's got the whole family with her. We have Viserys kind of kissing a ring, and he's got a rat hanging out on the fireplace. So they're really continuing with this rat metaphor and symbolism. And then we have just the residents of Harrenhal dealing with the fire and the aftermath. And essentially the whole point of this monologue that Larry Strong gives is that he's just calling children kind of a folly and a weakness. It's weighing you down. The love that you have for them essentially distorts your decision making and leads to your downfall. He basically is like almost the anti-Aemon Targaryen from The Wall in Game of Thrones, when Aemon is kind of more poetic about it, where like love is the death of duty. You know, it's kind of more of like a sincere, like not in a terribly bad way. While Larys is like, you should never have kids because then you'll be weak.
That is like a classic Game of Thrones line. Like just something that one of the evil characters just uses to live by, and is just one of those things that you would just see if Larry Strong gets some merchandise, like that's the line under him, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But just cool to see his perspective so clearly put out front, because he was talking to Alicent in the scene, right?
Yes,
Kind of.
yeah.
And he gets it across like, yo, that was me. I killed my kid and I killed my brother and my dad. Call Otto back to King's Landing, let him be hand to the king, and then let me get my favor down the road.
Yeah.
This guy's a crazy motherfucker.
Yeah, he is big time.
He placed his bet early too. I mean, technically it was only last episode, but it was 10 years ago with like young, scared, squirrely Alicent. And he was like, let me cozy up. And then now he's, you know, pushing basically all his chips all in on her, saying like, you owe me this favor. I did this crazy shit. And you know I did it. And I know that you know that I could probably tell some people that you were involved. So it's kind of like a hink, hink, wint, wint, you know what I mean, kind of thing there.
Yeah. I'm so happy Otto's coming back.
Yeah.
I figured you would end up saying that.
Yeah. I am too. I mean, when the scene when Viserys was kissing the ring, I assume it's Amma's. I'm assuming he's just missing Amma, Queen Amma. But the rat, I was like, first of all, I can't believe that the thing I said about the rats actually like matters in metaphor. I thought I was just being annoying. But I was like, that is just the Peter Pettigrew Otto Hightower. He's like, I'm coming back.
That's funny. And Viserys had lost his pinky first too. That's funny.
Yeah,
that just made me think of that.
Uh-huh.
There's been an odd amount of Harry Potter references on this House of the Dragon coverage.
Yeah.
So that's not the first one. So that's kind of the end of the episode. I feel like episode it's a lot of small scenes kind of with some big ones mixed in that add up to giving us this drama at the end of the episode. We're kind of resetting the entire chessboard, I guess, for lack of a better term. We've added pieces. We're unfortunately taking away some pieces that we've really kind of fallen in love with. But I think that just what we talked about at the beginning, the whole second pilot idea, I think that really does come across when you think about the whole episode as like a complete kind of story.
And that actually plays right into my hot take, which might not be hot. I don't know. This is just one I kind of thought of that I don't know if I'm alone in this, but not that I have like an issue overall with these crazy time jumps, actor switches, all this, but I will say that it's causing me to, I guess, Kathleen, you said it in the beginning of this before, I might have even been before we were recording, you don't even know who your favorite character is. So that's what's, I guess that's what part of the show is suffering for me, is I don't really have a favorite character, and it feels like I got desensitized to some of our main characters that I knew their actors were switching, and I'm kind of having to reacclimate myself and decide, like, is Rhaenyra my favorite character? Like, it's Alicent. She's great. Like, Daemon's been consistent, but even he got a complete personality shift where I feel like I have to reevaluate like who my favorite character is. So I guess my hot take comes down to the fact that unlike Game of Thrones, I don't think any one person is really just like, that's my Arya Stark. Like my favorite character by far. Daemon was like kind of getting to that point, and then we have this soft reset. So he will easily be able to recapture my pick in like one or two more episodes. But again, it still feels like I need the build up again because of that 10-year soft restart. But that's just kind of where I'm at with picking of who a favorite character is. And that's why the MVPs are always hard, because it feels like I'm trying to just force pick an MVP when it's so much easier to pick the LVP of each episode.
Yeah. My hot take was just that Harwin Strong is the hottest man in all of lore. That's it. That's just it. All of lore, not Game
Wow.
of Thrones. But yeah, Luke, I agree. I don't know if that's about the actors changing, but more so just the time jumps, and that's why the actors are changing, because of the time jumps. But it is interesting just because for anyone who has seen The Crown, they recasted every single solitary character each season, not just the main people. Maybe one or two gets like pushed through or something, but it's different for every single character. So it is interesting that they picked and choose who to age up. Just a choice they made, I guess. But yeah, I get that, Luke. But I could still pick my favorite of the episode. I can't pick. We just span too much time. It's impossible to say over this 20-year span, this is my favorite character, because it's like, and I think that's actually the beauty of it, to be like, this episode, this person was so fucking sick, and I love that.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is we're kind of in a prologue setting still. Like, this is all like kind of backstory, as weird as that sounds. I mean, it's been 6 episodes of television and so much time has passed, but we're still kind of fleshing out backstory to then we'll get into where like there will be no time skips. Everything will be consistent, and, you know, the battle lines will be drawn, and we'll get a much better idea of who we actually fuck with.
And just off the back of that comment, they said that there's never going to be another major time jump, but I think there's going to be one more mini time jump after episode 8. Is what they said?
Or it's either, because the kids, their children, they will get different actors at some point.
Yeah.
It might actually be after.
It'll be like 10 years.
It might be after episode 7, after next episode.
Yeah, it could be at the beginning of episode 8.
Yeah, I think 8 through 10 we'll get our full cast of actual actors.
Cool.
And my hot take, I'll continue on my theme of Criston Cole is a great character.
Oh my God.
He is
sick.
He is a plot mover. He's great, dude. You love to hate him, and I love that you guys hate him. I don't fully hate him, maybe, but I just love the dynamic that he brings to the show. So will be my hot take.
You're beat.
At least mine are hot takes that the other 2 people don't actually agree with, while you guys say
I've
things
some hot takes,
that
just
other
not this
people
one.
agree with. So
you agree with
You're right,
Marwyn
right.
Strong being the hottest man that ever lived?
I could be convinced fairly easily, yeah.
Okay. Okay, who wants to go first with MVP, LVP?
I'll go first. Since I went last for hot takes, I will go MVP. And I just want to be the first one to say it. Harwin Strong, a legend. Daddy Harwin will be my MVP. And LVP will be... now I'm kind of pissed I went first. I'm going to say... I'm going to say Aegon. Because he got caught jerking off by his mom.
Yeah, big time.
And that's pretty LVP of him.
Yes, I agree.
Go ahead, Luke.
MVP, I'm going to just take the fun boys. I'm going to say Laenor and Viserys, man. They're having a ball in Westeros. They're bringing back fun, man. And I love to see it, because I don't think there's been anybody like them, like that level of like emotion and fun in Game of Thrones. I don't really have an LVP, but I was like, that sticks out super obviously. It's easy just to say Larys, just because he's fully taken the stage as a main villain, I think, in this show after this episode. But I don't mean it LVP in like a bad way. I mean it like LVP, like a fun to hate kind of way.
That teased me out perfectly, because my MVP is Larys Strong.
There you go. Yeah.
I just think he's gonna really we're gonna be talking about him in such high regard for the next few episodes. Hopefully next season. He's just the GOAT. Like, obviously I fucking hate that he killed my boy, but both my boys, honestly, the Strong boys were good men. They were good men. But this is the first time, besides Otto, obviously in the beginning when we thought he was a big schemer, like Larys is a player of the Game of Thrones. Like, we are seeing one of the first in this series of like, I am doing bad things behind the scenes to get what I want. I'm going to kill my dad. That's sick. That's Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And I love that. My LVP is Sir Criston Cole. Go fuck yourself.
Good answer.
No, I was going to say Aegon too, but you took it. So
good. All right.
But
any other parting comments?
I just
I'm
like the
hoping that
new
we-
actors.
yeah.
They're all great. That I cannot wait to see them. Emma Olivia especially. Fuck me up. Let's go.
One of my biggest takeaways from this podcast is I'm really looking forward to seeing the most beautiful dragon. Give me the name one more time. Dreamfire.
Dreamfire, yes.
That's
Can't
hot.
wait to see that.
Dreamfire with a Y, so it's Fyre.
Okay, same
Okay.
thing as Aegon's, which is Sunfire with a Y, I think.
Yep,
Yeah.
Sunfire.
Yep.
And my parting comment will be in the beginning of the episode when Rhaenyra and Laenor are going up the stairs, and that Lord Caswell says, "Let me be the first to congratulate you," blah, blah, blah. He, canonically, all right, Lord Caswell had a Sir Kyle at one point in their service, and we now have a Luke in the show, so I want there to just let it be known that there is a Kyle. All right? So that will be my parting comment.
It's
I
funny.
really thought there was going to be some lore around that guy, and you were
Yes,
going to
me
bring it
too.
up when we were at that scene.
I was shocked that there was no
No.
lore, but that's the
Well,
best.
okay, there is, but it's not great, so we're just going to leave it at he exists.
Good.
That's
Okay.
it.
Good
Yeah,
deal.
cool. Okay, this is on me, right? I'm the guy who does this. So that is the end of our coverage of episode 6, House of the Dragon, The Princess and the Queen. If you like what you heard and you're not subscribed on whatever service you are listening on, please subscribe. It would mean the world to us, and you'll never miss an episode, which obviously you would never want to do. Want to connect with us on social media at Bingetown TV, Twitter and Instagram. And we do have a Patreon if you're feeling extra super special generous. Patreon.com/BingetownTV. I always get it mixed up because the Bingetown TV is at the end. And then we do
Bingetown.
have a website, BingetownTV.com. We're doing a ton of podcasting right now. So we have Rick and Morty's coming out. New vampire show, Vampire Academy, is coming out. We might have something special in the works for Vampire Academy fans. And spooky season right around the corner. So Bingetown TV loves their spooky season. So keep an eye out for all things Halloweeny, those type of shows. I do not watch horror television. I am a bit of a weenie, so you'll hear some other voices, but they are just as good as mine. So I think you will enjoy that if you enjoy those types of shows. And that's all I got.
Love y'all.
Love you
Cool.
too.